Hello and welcome to another repaint. So as you can see here, this is my planned design for the doll. So I accidentally, well not accidentally, I knew I would, but buying batches of Monster High dolls, I got two of these. So I decided I needed to do one over. So I kind of planned it out with paper and then on a kind of doll maker, because I find it can kind of help of giving you ideas of like what thematically goes together. So unfortunately this has to start with the removal of the face. So I actually really liked the face. It's kind of quite striking. I actually succeeded in taking off an entire eye, and it was, you know, really fun. I had already plaited the hair out of the way and I kind of, you know, that was the design point. So that turned out really well. And just a tip, so what I did is I bound it with thread and then I did the thread through the middle and like through and through and through it, and it really bound it together in a way that you can't really with elastics. So then we get into the real repaint. Now this was an issue. So I live in England. England is very wet, and the binder didn't really work well when I did the first layer. There was a huge gap between the first layer and subsequent layers. I actually finished this probably the quickest that I've done one, over about a week for the majority of the design, and I didn't notice until looking over this footage how much my face is in the way. It's mostly for this. I kind of got better over the 2 weeks or so it took to design this. But basically I could only get down a really base idea of where the eyes and the features are, because it just was not sticking, so it wasn't anything that would be visible. So I'd say make sure that give yourself a bit of time before you're uploading, or if you're just doing it as an actual hobby with no stress, give yourself a bit more time and wait for a clearer day, because I'm pretty sure I had an umbrella, I shuffled across into a little alcove, and like it wasn't raining but it was moist. And also you can see now I'm trying to do the design on the forehead, but I mean, as you can guess, it's completely lopsided. So I just kind of gave up on that. I decided to go a little bit later for some kind of more natural cat/tiger-like stripes on the face, which I think worked out way better than the initial design. When getting into your first proper layer, so it should have been the last one but ended up being this one, it's really important to keep up symmetry, and kind of it's going to act as a base for everything else you draw on. So if it's asymmetrical or there's problems on that layer, it's probably going to turn up and be a reoccurring issue. So it wasn't that bad at this point, but the eyes did end up slightly like the curves of the eyebrows and the eyes are slightly different. It goes a bit higher, more leftwards than in the left eye than the right eye, and just issues like that. But I would say, for me at least, the biggest thing to pay attention to is the pupils, because the thing is, when you're drawing it's flat, but on dolls it's very, very curved, on Monster High dolls especially, due to their moulding. And you kind of have to draw your pupils more inwards, like towards the nose, than you would if you're drawing it on a two-dimensional plane? I don't know if you can draw in 1 dimensions. And also, may I add, another good thing about these stripes is that unlike the kind of flat design on the forehead, it kind of works more with the curvature of the face. So it's nothing straight, it's nothing kind of designed, it's kind of more of a natural following the flow of the face. And yes, as I think sometimes when you're drawing, what just comes out is better. better than your initial design, because as you're going, you kind of see how it works in the fourth dimension, in 3 dimensions, and it's kind of, you know, more what's the word? It's not homeopathic. I'll add it in here. But trust your instincts, and remember, you can always use water to rub it away if your instincts were wrong. Ooh, and adding, I think I laugh too much. I think it might be kind of a natural embarrassed thing, but I think I kind of do a giggle quite naturally. But tell me if that's an issue, if you find that weird, because I have not watching YouTubers, especially doing repaints, I've not seen anyone as awkward or doing this awkward giggle that I have. So tell me if it's something that I should try to remedy. And this layer will show you the beginning of my new technique. Yes, I come up with new techniques and drop them and develop them every time I do one of these, because I haven't done that many, so everything's experimentation. Basically, I've kind of done twice as many from this one onwards, twice as many actual layers, well not layers, videos per layer, because I'm doing an initial layer in kind of watercolours, and then, you know, with water, and then a subsequent layer with just pencils, kind of outlining, making the more fine lines, where this is good for some nice gradients. If you just want to get like a blank colour in, it works really well. I think it works best with the yellow pupils that I will shortly be putting in. So as you can see, the watercolour dried, and I haven't done another layer on top of that. I'm just putting some pencil lines on top. So I'm starting with the light, and then I'm going in with the dark, which is bringing in another issue I had. Not issue, it wasn't that bad, but another thing I had to tackle with this design, in that I felt like there wasn't enough colour contrast. Like, she's kind of I don't want to use black, and it's kind of, I guess it's similar to the Marimo repaint I did, but I really worked hard on like bringing out the brighter, darker reds, to cause a contrast with the orange and the yellows that I'm using in the eyes, and very soon it'll darken up. And another one is those tear duct areas. So if you actually look back onto my first initial design, I don't really pay that much attention to them, but I do quite like them on the doll. But in my actual art style, it's kind of more of a focus just on the little teardrop, the bit of the corner middle of the eye, and then kind of just lines under that. So I think I'll be experimenting in further dolls in kind of sticking more to my art style and not adding the entire tear duct, pinky, bloopy area underneath your eye, because in actuality, until doll repainters kept on talking about it, I didn't notice people had them in their eyes. I always noticed the little bit in the middle of the eyes, but the little pink bit between the I always said feathers. The bottom eyelashes I didn't notice. Also, another thing with the stripes, much like the stripes, I just decided that my catfish decided to have a kind of cat nose. So you'll see that developing. I just put down and the cat pupils, this layer is just catifying it up, isn't it? This was kind of the start of my real struggle with the tear ducts, because they were just not fine enough. So when I was using the lighter colours, it was less visible, I could kind of make it tighter, but when I tried to go with the darker, kind of more visible tear ducts, kind of make the eyes stand out, I just couldn't get it close enough and especially symmetrical. So I think it's a bit too too far. Where it goes down on the right is not the same as on the left, and it took quite a while going through. Looking on the final doll, the eyes are not exactly the same, and I think the eyelashes at the end really work to kind of balance them out. With this layer, we're really just kind of defining what we want the sharp lines to be, making the eyes a bit more symmetrical. I can see there that I'm kind of going to fill in a bit of the mid space to make it a bit fuller, making the nose a cute little, you know how cats are, it's like kind of in two little halves, and oh, it's so cute. I really want to see my cats. I'll see them soon, almost Christmas, and just getting everything detailed. I also put a bit more, I worked hard on the next few layers at the pupils because they weren't standing out next to all of the kind of brighter colours I was layering on top, but soon they will be better. So from this layer we've got some further experimentation. I kind of have always kept away from acrylic paints because some new artists tend to have very bloopy use of the paint and eyes, so it kind of scared me off, but in actuality it's rather simple. I mean, I guess it's down to like knowledge of watering it down and having your base down properly. They probably aren't using MSG, which is kind of expensive if it's just a hobby, but it really works well. I would say I really need to invest in some like smaller precision brushes, because this is probably my best, and it's perfect for these pupils, but when I went into the whites of the eyes it was just a bit too inaccurate and bloopy. But I would say that if you're using the right instruments and as long as you're watering it down, you can really work well, and you should really try out using acrylics, because I was afraid of it, but I've overcome my fear, and I'm sure you can too. Also, her nose is a proper nose now, like a little kitty cat. So this is kind of the first layer where I was going into kind of the body paint, because I really needed to develop, especially the one on the tail. It's a bit too stark, and I don't know if I'm not going to include it in full, but you'll see it in the end result. It's just slightly watered down acrylic paint. And also I left the little tail, the back shoulder fins at home, so I'm sorry you won't be able to see the entirely done doll, because I'll have to go home for Christmas before it's reunited with its shoulder blade fin things. But actually on the tail it's not really watered down. I really needed a payak. I didn't really like the stark white against black, so instead I went for a kind of yellow and black, like a jet black acrylic, which you'll see in the end results. As I was saying, I really need to invest in a finer brush because, look at how, it's so blobby. I mean, it's not even necessarily like three-dimensionally blobby, but it's not, oh, look at that. See, now the right one was actually done in fine, if not for the horrible white eye goo tear. But basically what I did was let this dry, and then I just used kind of, I got rid of that one completely. That one was bad. I went over just with my pencils, where I went over the edge, I just went over with a bit of the dark red, and you can kind of see when it comes up that it helped even it out and cover up my incompetence. And now this is something I really need tips with. Please, someone help me to do eyelashes, because the thing is, from a design point of view, I just don't know how. So this is kind of my second layer, and I kind of gave up on just the pencils and wet them, just the tip. So they're rather, I think it's accurate for the character that they're kind of big, spiky, bushy eyelashes, but it won't always be accurate. So if you have any tips or tricks to help me, that would be very appreciated, so that I can get some less fierce eyelashes if I want to. And now we get into the outfit, and by outfit I mean shirt, because she has a tail. So this is my box of random scraps from other sewing projects, and I picked out this kind of blue necktie kind of a pattern, because I've been seeing on Instagram where they kind of turn it's not a necktie, a handkerchief? Not a handkerchief. It's like a handkerchief you put around your neck, and they've been turning that into shirts, and I was kind of thinking that could look cute on a mermaid and would match with this cute tiny lace that I had, and I think it turned out pretty cute. So that little rectangle with 2 triangles is the basic pattern, using a chalk pen to kind of put the pattern across, and those little clicky poppers to close it all up. And I made the pattern by using the tape method again, and you can do it yourself. It's very simple. You can actually, if you want, do it completely freehand without any measuring. Just do a rectangle. You want it to be too long and about the height that you want it to be, with some space for a seam or a lot of space as I've given it. And you can, as long as it's about, I would say 1 pinky finger in the middle, and then 2 upwards triangles, so that it kind of fits to the body, because it's kind of thinner underneath the rib cage than at the boob area, so it kind of needs to be thinner at the bottom than the top. So, and then just add the ends and close them up as is appropriate. This is how it kind of turned out, a little boob tube with some lace, and it takes me several years to pop it together. And at the end of it all, about 2 hours of footage and who knows how long of actual doing things, I'm pretty happy with how she turned out. She's pretty accurate to the design. She's pretty regal and noble, and I would say she's like my second favourite after the Marimo. I think she's definitely kept like the design aesthetic that I wanted, and I hope you had as much fun watching as I had doing. So thank you, come again, guys.
You sometimes hang around him, you won't and then he's creating some.
Aww.